Thanks for joining us for Political Talk on another PolitiPod Live.
I'm Matt Nisanoff.
And I'm Tom Bickle, here to discuss current political events. Tonight we'll cover the Trump shutdown, Democratic reaction or not, check up on J.D. Vance, discuss the Republicans' war on America, talk about Gaza, and a reminder of your No Kings rallies for this Saturday. We'll also have our segments on the media and fascism creeps. And we'll start with, hello, Matt, we'll start with the Trump section.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Yeah, and real quick, to start that off, how can you not mention what I think is a headline-grabbing moment, which would be Trump's picture on the Time magazine's cover? And is there anything actually wrong with it? Yeah, there we go. Look at that guy there. There's been a lot of talk about it. He himself said, "Oh, they wrote a good story about me, but they had a horrible picture." And another source said it was very intriguing because it shows what his hairline is or really isn't, and shows the neck vagina there on the right there, and then the ear, the famous left ear,
Right.
and the Teflon ear, I believe that it has been called, or diaper ear. I don't know which moniker is really stuck as far as that goes, but there he is with perhaps the most realistic picture of him that's come out in a very long time, and he definitely doesn't like it. So it's worth mentioning.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, this has been not the highest brow talk on the political circuit, but definitely has people abuzz. First, for the record, I'd like to offer a correction, if I may. I think the correct term is chin vulva, not a vagina. That's a different portion of the anatomy. Not to be a stickler. Anyway, yeah,
Do you
his
have a
neck.
medical background?
Well, I've amateur gynecology has been a hobby of mine for many years, but other than that, no. That's why my prices are so low. I have no licensing to speak of.
Perfect.
All right. Now that I've really acquitted myself well, let me continue if I may. I'll say something stupid again very soon. I saw what he said about this. Initially, without the neck thing, in photography, if you want to show someone as an imposing figure, you shoot them from a lower angle. So I was willing to give the photographer that benefit of that doubt. But Time Magazine has subtly roasted him in the past. One of the photos they ran of him as his presidency ascended in the first term, as I recall, is him sort of looking back over his right shoulder, sitting in a chair, like a fancy upholstered chair, looking back at the camera. And it was, and he looked, wasn't an unflattering shot of him, but the chair, and I read a bit about it, and it had some art people look closer at the portrait, and the chair was kind of tattered, and the room was kind of run down, and there were subtle little digs, and so I feel like this is continuing that tradition, really incredibly on brand, because they have skewered him here with his with his neck folds, and the light, the use of the light to just show his bare skull as if he's bald as a cue ball, which he kind of is, except for the cotton candy swirl he manages to pile on there every day. Like, I don't remember who. Anyway, who else did that? But anyway, try to get back on track here. He complained. You're right. He said they kind of did a kind of good story. A kind of good. They gave him a lot of credit in that story, as I've heard. But he also complained that they put a crown on his head. He said you couldn't see my hair, which is true. But he said something like he saw a crown, although a small one. I don't understand what that is meant to mean. Um, any? Let me ask you. Any idea?
Well, I think that perhaps this is Donald Trump being Donald Trump. He's always got a way of saying that everything is really about him and his brilliance and his majesty is, his majestic
Sure.
being. So I'm sure he does see a crown. I'm sure that,
Exactly. I wondered if it was just visual delusion.
well, exactly. And I'm sure anybody he shows the picture, he mentions that too, so
You
that
know
they
where?
will see it too.
You know where else he sees a crown? Every time he looks in the mirror. It's absolutely. It's not an artifact of this magazine, I think. Anyway, so
Exactly.
uh, and this neck thing, buddy. I am never too mature to laugh at this guy's. He can't hide it unless he loses 30 pounds, and he short of an amputation, he never will. Uh, so it, it's a nice little curse that the Lord has blessed us with, I think.
There you go. But that's the truth of it, as opposed to the paintings of him as a 6'5", 125 pound, riding a lion, whatever, whatever he gets painted himself with in majestic manner and with all sorts of athletic posing and whatever, carrying the weapon and jumping on the back of the
Absolutely.
riding on top of the car with a M50 whatever.
That is
Um,
just all two-fisted, beefy He-Man, red-blooded American alpha male. Just right. You just can't handle it, Matt. Take it
well,
in.
exactly, yeah, exactly, and that's
This is not
and
a guy with a dirty diaper at any time in the last 10 years, I promise. Never.
well, we laugh about it, but it is the way that cabinet members have to acknowledge him prior to being allowed into the meetings. So
I hate. I would allow the man his dignity if he had any. He's never been dignified. So, of course, I'm going to take swings. I would normally not make fun of somebody's age, their incontinence, but old Beelzebub here, I think he can take it.
there have to be exceptions. There just has to be exceptions. And speaking of the things that he does, we should mention the perhaps the lesser story of the two about him, of the many of his, but the shutdown of the government
Hmm.
has popped up as well, and how that's working out. I know that there's been a lot about it, and I know you have a number of things that you want to mention, but I will mention that there's a news story of a judge, Susan Ilton, I believe is her last name, and she is probably the one that the case will go to when he starts firing federal workers. And she's already mentioned something about not accepting uh, an argument for firing workers during the shutdown, which is interesting in two ways. One, that she would mention it straight up, but also because it's been their whole thing. I mean, he's the "you're fired" guy, right? So
Right.
his whole spiel about the shutdown is, "Oh, I'm gonna, then I'm just gonna go ahead and start firing people." Um, and the Republicans have picked up on it. Senators, congressmen, they're all repeating that because they think it's tremendously clever. Oh, you shut down the government? Well, we're going to fire people. One, they were firing them already. Second, there's no there's no cause for it in the first place. So of course, if he does it, it will go to court. But he loves it when it goes to court because it makes the resolution delayed, and it allows him to continue the PR spin, whether he continues it as, oh, it's a witch hunt, or whether he continues it as, my enemies are against me, and these are enemies of the state who are challenging my authority. He's whatever his PR spin is, he'll grab hold of and pursue without any relevance to anything else. So that's what I was thinking of. What about you? What do you think what do you think's panning out here?
I think both sides feel like they're willing to drive this thing into the ditch, and so so it's going into the ditch. Uh, uh, I think you called it right when you said this thing could have legs, and it seems to be bearing out. Neither side's even really talking; they're just blaming the other. Neither side's really talking about moving forward without their sacred cows, sacred calves, however it goes. I'm not literate. Uh, so yeah, everybody seems to be playing that game of chicken. And but we're going to start. I read recently that it was either federal agents or soldiers. I think it was soldiers are going to start missing paychecks because of it, and that's going to be a whole different layer of pressure and outcry. And so, yeah, people are going to start putting pressure on their elected officials, and we'll see. I don't know.
Well,
I have no insight or wisdom.
well, here's well, here's an issue with that, and that is the Republicans are the party that based an entire identity of theirs on supporting the troops and giving thoughts and prayers to the troops, and always go up and say thank you for your service, and always being very deferential and saying, oh, look at how badly you're harming the troops by doing A, B, or C, whatever it is.
Oh yeah,
There,
yeah.
that whole that there's that whole nonsense about unit cohesion that they came up with, because there might be gay people or women in the military, and unit cohesion would be decimated by the whole, the horribleness of allowing such things. And of course, all that is nonsense. But um, it takes a twist there because the troops are not going to get paid, and with government, the big expense, like in any business, is employing people, paying people
Man,
to do things, and that's
manpower
what you
for
need.
sure.
That's the government. The model of the government is that it has people that actually do things. The problem is they do very important things, and it's easy to not accept what they're doing as important because it's sometimes in the weeds. You've got people who are studying illnesses and are trying to produce things that will or produce a paper chain as to where things come from, like food. When somebody gets sick at a restaurant in America, it used to be that there was the system in place so that they could literally trace where they got that particular thing, right down to the country it came from, to the region it came from, to the field it came from, to the very row where it was grown, because there was a lot of paperwork. They could do that, and they could say, okay, well, what's going on with this? What happened? What contaminated it? So they could find it and stop it or change it, or figure out something to do to help the people who became sick from it. And all of this trying to desperately slash government workers so that the bill is reduced or austerity can be promoted, or for whatever reason it is, that's what hurts people. Not only the workers for not having work, but because they're doing things that actually help other people and our fellow citizens. And with the military works on having people in it. I mean, you can have all the fancy gadgets and the weapons and the this and the that, and you may need them, but they don't go anywhere if there aren't people actually lugging them from one place to another, or driving them from one place to another, and using them. Um, so it's just saying this simplistic sort of thing of we're gonna, not pay the military people. Hopefully, the military people will make a case for themselves, be able to stand up for themselves, and that is another issue because frankly, they're used to being stepped on. They're used to being, you're going to get less pay and you have to do more things, and you're doing this because you're a patriot. You're not doing this because you're getting paid. Well, surprise. These are people who have work and get paid and have families and need money as much as they are patriots or the purpose, the reason that they are part of a military in a military unit. It includes getting paid. God damn it,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Um, and so when you stop paying them, let's see what their reaction is. Let's see if all these people who are so desperate to get others to support the troops will get off their keisters and do something so that that pay is restored. But that goes for every government worker. There's all this talk about all this waste and that's out there and all these things that are happening. It's not really. There's not really a lot once you look into it. There's not a lot because it's been cut out for 80 years, 90 years, 120 years.
Right.
There's always somebody saying you got to cut and cut more, and there's this waste, and it's much less than anybody. Well, it's much less than it is promoted as being, because making it an epidemic is easy, and it explains some very simplistic notions. Anything else as far as maybe our friends in the House or House of
Let
Representatives?
me. I would just like to touch on a few things you said because I think you put your finger on it. First of all, in reverse order, yeah, waste, fraud, and abuse. Anybody? Are you kidding me? Uh, I mean, the way the money is being worked out is not going well. I mean, I read that they're looking into paying the soldiers out of future research and development money. It's like tagged for some next term or something like that. So they're just gonna, I don't know, tap that. Is it imaginary? Is it money we already have? I don't know. But that's waste, fraud, and abuse. I think all at the same time. It's the trifecta. We call it a full house down at the Trump administration.
Like the post office, like the Republicans, how they undermined the post office. They started saying you have to pay the pensions in advance, so you have to use the money from your budget to do that. And then they said, "Oh, look, they waste their budget. They don't have
Right.
enough money. They're in
Look,
debt.
yeah,
You rigged it, you
exactly.
people."
They ruin it and they say, look, it's not worth having.
Right, exactly.
They sell it for parts. And then, yeah, and you said early on, you said a mouthful, and early on, you prefaced it by noting that Republicans are the goody goody rah rah, support the troops, hand over the heart, tear in the eye, sing the Star Spangled Banner, and you better sing it loud, and you better not let that flag touch the ground. All this stuff, that is, they claimed it. They claimed that red, white, and blue high ground, long and loud, and from the rooftops. They have, but the hypocrisy. I hate to be so negative, but the hypocrisy doesn't begin to end there. Um, the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, and that being essential to stopping what? Tyranny. Tyranny. We are up to our armpits in tyranny right now. And where are these people? Where are all these dadgum, red blooded, salt of the earth people who were going to lay down their lives and race them goddamn to hell in defense of America and freedom and liberty and the Constitution? And it's all being just digitally penetrated by this administration, and they're not doing anything about it. They're on the other side. They're siding with the tyranny. So the hypocrisy runs rich and thick and deep, and I couldn't let that go by without saying amen to, yeah, they were the people who were supposed to be all about it, and now they're not only quiet, they're on the other side.
Yeah, I believe they're called ICE now.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there are, and another point along those lines is that Trump's latest spin is this whole thing about identifying Democrat programs that he could permanently close because of the shutdown. And what it will do is it's just any program that will actually help people. And that's for him, that's a Democrat program, and he'll be happy to close it because he doesn't give a damn, but also because it will make him look like a hero to his base and to the Republicans. who are, just want to be seen as tough and acting out you know, this is the way things used to be, which it never was, but that's part of their program. Um, so there's speaking about the is there anything else about the shutdown that you want to
No, sir. I think we've covered it.
mention? And there's been you've mentioned earlier that the idea of how there's the two parties and they're kind of running along the same lines. Where I will agree with you on that is that the Democrats are not coming across as strong with this issue. With the shutdown, they can actually and have shown some form of the remnants of a backbone by standing up for the healthcare system, for the ACA, and it's given them something to actually stand up for,
Agreed.
whereas they could have been standing up for democracy all along, and not allowing or have been more of a monkey wrench in the program all along. But they are doing this, and they are standing strong for the ACA, and we'll see if they're able to figure out then that they have to actually stand up for the rest of it as well. But the countering activity prior to this has been, Hakeem Jeffries with taking a picture of himself with a baseball bat to show that he was rough and tough and ready to to do something. Yeah, okay, nice. I'm glad you sent it out, or I'm sure you sent it out with a donation request. That picture. And then Schumer, Senator Schumer, who has a long history of talking about how he has friends who are Republican. He works out in the Senate gym with people who are Republicans. He can't do things that would make them angry. He's their
Right.
friend. And
We're all one
so,
big happy country.
yeah, exactly. Seeding democracy in the name of having somebody to work out with. You could get somebody else to spot you. And,
Yeah, but are they
I'm
gonna wipe
sure.
down the machine, though? That's what I wanna know. Let me
Right.
hurry up and agree with you, that I gave the Democrats short shrift, and I did it in another way too. I said nobody's really looking to, hurry up and negotiate this thing. Democrats, as I've from the media I've seen, have been, very available in the halls of, where the legislation gets done, and that the Republicans have run for the hills. So uh, I shouldn't. I misspoke when I said nobody's trying to negotiate. I guess what I was getting at is that I feel like they feel emboldened to hold out for some sort of a scalp, some sort of progress, some sort of principle. Dare I say it? And fight for the ACA, like you said. And good for them. We have to do something because the following the playbook while the other side just tears out page after page is no good. And I don't want to see people or businesses injured from this, but we can't keep going on the way we're going. We have to do something, and this is definitely something. Anyway, so I sold them a little short. Let me try to catch that back up. And that's my effort at that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Good point. I would say. And then so that brings us to one of our segments. And we have, if you've seen the show before, and hopefully you have, if you haven't, thank you for joining us. And we have some breaks in between the issues that we talk about to take on segments on particular matters. This one is on the media and how the media is keeping up with its portion or its part in the democracy, the fifth estate, the one that's supposed to be keeping the government folks held accountable and telling us what's happening as honestly as they are able to be with whichever medium they're using. And in this case, I guess the first thing we should mention is the whole Pentagon kerfuffle, where Pete Hegseth had ordered that the Pentagon would require media sources to come to it and give an accounting prior to any meetings and prior to any events where it might be questioned, the Pentagon might be questioned, and explain what it is they were going to ask and tell them the issues that they would be bringing up and making certain that everything was cleared, classified or not, that everything was cleared with the person prior to any interview or presentation or press event, and that they would then clarify, the Pentagon would then be clarifying which ones that they would discuss or not discuss, or that you were not allowed to ask. And it would be a pledge. I believe they had to sign a pledge, which when they're asking you to sign a pledge, that's usually a tip of the hat right there. That's a little tip off right there.
Yeah,
When
if I
people,
may proffer, the only thing worse than having to sign a pledge for the Pentagon is if they just printed the First Amendment and made you eat it. That's pretty bad. Sorry, please continue.
that's 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 good. That's yeah. I believe you have a point there. Um, yeah, but loyalty pledges are not something that's either appropriate in a democracy, much less for press to uh, take on as something that they would to agree to do. So I don't know how they thought that would go. I mean, maybe it would. To be fair, it is the Trump era, and you should probably be willing to sign pledges of loyalty, and you should probably be prepared to, you know, cede any sort of sense of um, questioning or disagreement or dissent. That should all be left behind because Big Daddy says so. There's an example of actual journalism that has popped up. Maybe you can argue both sides of the coin, that there's been a certain rigor to the press in the past. You can say that they sort of let things slide, and we are where we are now because of the way, well, part of the reason we are where we are is how the press has not handled things as well as a fifth estate should. But there was an interview recently with everyone's favorite Vice President, J.D. Vance, if that's the name he's using currently. Is it? I'm not
Yes.
sure. It's and he
Book
was
is sixth surname, isn't it? Something like that.
exactly. Wait a minute. Give him a few minutes. We'll see if. But he was being interviewed by George Stephanopoulos on ABC, and it was rather heartening to see. You, I believe, have the video actually.
I do have that video. Let's roll it now, and we'll give it a talk afterwards, or maybe during.
The White House border czar Tom Homan was recorded on an FBI surveillance tape in September 2024 accepting $50,000 in cash. Did he keep that money or give it back?
George, you've covered the story ad nauseum. Tom Homan did not take a bribe. It's a ridiculous smear. And the reason you guys are going after Tom Homan so aggressively is because he's doing the job of enforcing the law. I think it's really preposterous. I know Tom. I think that he's a good man. He gets death threats. He gets attacked. He gets constantly threatened by people because he has the audacity to want to enforce the country's immigration laws. I think that it would be a much more interesting story about why is it that Tom Homan, who is simply enforcing Americans' immigration laws, is getting constantly harassed and threatened to the point of death threats. That's a much more interesting question that I think journalists should focus on. We can agree to disagree on that question.
Well, wait, you said he didn't take a bribe, but I'm not sure you answered the question. Are you saying that he did not accept the $50,000?
George, this story has been covered ad nauseum. He did not take a bribe. Did he accept $50,000? I'm sure that in the course of Tom Homan's life, he has been paid more than $50,000 for services. The question is, did he do something illegal? And there's absolutely no evidence that Tom Homan has ever taken a bribe or done anything illegal, which is why he's working in the administration.
I'm asking you, did he accept the $50,000 that was caught on the surveillance tape? Did he accept that $50,000 or not?
George, I don't know what you're talking about. Did he accept $50,000 for what?
He was recorded on an audio tape in September 2024, an FBI surveillance tape, accepting $50,000 in cash. Did he keep that money?
Accepting $50,000 for doing what, George? I'm not even sure I understand the question. Is it illegal to take a payment for doing services? The FBI has not prosecuted him. I've never seen any evidence that he's engaged in criminal wrongdoing. Nobody has accused Tom of violating a crime, even the far left media like yourself. So I'm actually not sure what the precise question is. Did he accept $50,000? Honestly, George, I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is that he didn't violate a crime.
So you don't, what was caught on the tape, you're saying right now you don't know whether or not he kept that money?
I don't know what tape you're referring to, George. I saw media reports that Tom Homan accepted a bribe. There's no evidence of that. And here's, George, why fewer and fewer people watch your program and why you're losing credibility. Because you're talking for now 5 minutes with the Vice President of the United States about this story regarding Tom Homan, a story that I've read about, but I don't even know the video that you're talking about. Meanwhile, low-income women can't get food because the Democrats and Chuck Schumer have shut down the government. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer has shut down the government. You are focused on a bogus story. You're insinuating criminal wrongdoing against a guy who has done nothing wrong instead of focusing on the fact that our country is struggling because our government's shut down. Let's talk about the real issues, George. I think the American people would benefit much more from that than from you going down some weird left-wing rabbit hole where the facts clearly show that Tom Homan didn't engage in any criminal wrongdoing.
It's not a weird left-wing rabbit hole. I didn't insinuate anything. I asked you whether Tom Homan accepted $50,000, as was heard on an audio tape recorded by the FBI in September 2024, and you did not answer the question. Thank you for your time this morning.
So there's a happy ending, at least. At least for this one, there's a happy ending. And
I want to point out, I'm sorry, Matt, just want to cap on the end of that. There's a few seconds at the end of that video that we didn't get where George Stephanopoulos gives him tells him what he tells him and says, "Thank you for your time." And then there's about 2.5 seconds of hamina from our esteemed vice president trying to say, well, and trying to get a few words in edgewise, and Stephanopoulos wasn't having it, and they went to commercial.
Yes, true. Yeah, and it was just, it's true that what Harry S. Truman said, that when he was vice president, the office is not worth a bucket of warm spit. But I think that we have a new low for vice president when he's out there trying to do spin in the culture war on the Democrat left-wing blah blah blah, whatever it is, to anything that he is not able to, he can't honestly talk about it. So he goes into this thing about left-wing rabbit holes and whatever it was else that he said. And I'm very heartened by Stephanopoulos actually standing up to it. I'm very glad that somebody actually called him on it and said, look, okay, you didn't answer. We'll move on. We're out of here. And not allowing him to, as you said, he kind of gave that second or two of but. And Stephanopoulos just, the control room was smart enough to just go to a commercial and not let him get back on the hole.
Absolutely. They give these people way too much leeway in so many instances. And it was slightly heartening to see that not happen and for them to go. They let him run his game. They let him say whatever stupidity. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. But whatever nonsense he wanted to say, they let him say it. George did not even fart during that guy's tirade, including when he shit on George's desk about how terrible ABC News is, and how their viewership sucks and they suck, and it sucks to suck. They let him do all of that. They did insert a question now and then because he never answered one. But other than that, they were very respectful. They gave him his time to run his little sideshow. And then at the end, they said, that's how it went. That's what you said. Goodbye. Anyway, since I'm trampling all over what you said, let me get a few other words in edgewise. I mean, what a display. Everybody who saw that roundly panned this terrible attempt at tap dancing, at dancing between the raindrops. The dude does not have the chops, the moves, any of it. He can't do it. He's like, this is like karaoke night on the big stage, and the guy can't hold the tune. He tried to blame Stephanopoulos. You can't brush back Stephanopoulos with that weak soup. Are you kidding me? I mean, I don't picture him that tough, but holy cats, you gotta do better than that. And to his credit, Stephanopoulos just held firm, waited quietly for this guy to answer the mother-loving question, and he never did. That guy would have done anything. He would rather have sung you a song during that interview than try to answer that question anymore. I thought the only short of faking a heart attack, that was the most embarrassing thing out of this administration since Trump's necussy. It's just reprehensible. And I like how in almost the same breath, I want to note this. He says, listen, nobody's accusing Tom Homan of a crime, ... Hey, stop accusing Tom Homan of a crime. All right, which is it? Anyway, that was rich. That was a guy trying to walk on water and drowning immediately. Oh, and it just gets funnier every time I see it. Please.
Yeah. The whole line of I don't know. He accepted $50,000 for services.
How do you not know? He's acting. That's another thing I forgot to say while I was interrupting you again. How do you even try to act dumb on that? You're the vice mother-loving president. How do you not know that this guy is on the FBI tapes taking a bribe and you never heard of it? Now, was he the contractor that did your bathroom? Because people need to get paid. No. How do you even try to sell that soft soap? I don't get it. It's not only corrupt, it's inept at being corrupt. It's layers.
Yeah, exactly. Stormy Daniels got what, 120,000?
130.
130,000. So Holman's not even up to speed on what they're supposed to charge.
She's a
so
whore. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
She's not a whore, by the way. She's an adult actress and multivaried, faceted and talented performer as well. That slipped out a little too easily. I apologize for my misogyny.
All right, but talking about J.D. Vance and
now Holman's a whore. I don't retract that.
It's in the name,
right? In the first syllable. Exactly.
Oh man. Talking about J.D. Vance and some of the other things that some of his other stellar performances of late. This is the guy who threatened the governor of Illinois, Pritzker, to justify ICE going in. He came up with the line that Pritzker was mishandling crime in Chicago, and that was what justifies having ICE and military troops going into Chicago. This is a guy who said that the new U.S. military mission is to crush drug cartels. That's none of this, protecting the nation from attacks by foreign powers. It's their new mission is to go after drug cartels, and this justifies the sinking of the two boats down in and around Venezuela. And just like the expected layoffs of CDC experts, where they were fired one day, rehired the next day, and he was the one who came up with the whole thing about they'd been fired because of the shutdown. And they just wanted to see federal workers happy and healthy, was his term. And that's achieved by, apparently, that's from the perspective of the White House, that's achieved by firing them. Somehow makes them happy and healthy. But these
Yeah,
are
in the
people.
same way, yeah, I would like to point out, in the same way that J.D. Vance cares about mothers having enough food for their children, back in his ABC rant that I just can't leave alone. Yeah, the hypocrisy is spellbinding.
Yeah, exactly. And just the application of flat out the inverse of what you mean, just lying flat out to the face of whoever will listen because they feel that it makes them look strong, maybe, or it does apparently to their base make them look very strong to be able to say these things. This is not exactly new for them. This is their sort of playbook that they've used consistently, and we are, of course, in for getting it as long as they're there, and as long as they can get away with it, as long as their base will support them. They will continue to do the same things that they think work. Speaking of things they do because they think it works, that brings us to the issue of Trump's war on America. And we know that that's another issue for, I mentioned ICE briefly, and another issue tied into that is that Trump has said that he's targeting groups that he sees as having attacked ICE. And this is another one of his justifications for reinforcing them with National Guard and continuing to assault American citizens. And I'm sure maybe there are some who are some of the people that ICE go after are actually the criminals that are illegals that he says they are. There might be some, but mostly what we see are American citizens being tackled in the streets, in the hallways, and that is the very intended actions that he wants them to pursue, because that's all they're doing. And and that also the issue of these alleged attacks on ICE, some by groups that don't actually even exist, but they're able to somehow pull off these attacks that don't happen. So there's sort of this negative thing going on. I don't know if there's some sort of animation that can be made for it or something that would help get the point across. But these non-attacks by non-existing groups are used to justify his invasion by Texans into Illinois, and we'll see we'll see what that brings next, because it's going to continue. Meanwhile, there is at least a little bit of good news on these fronts, and that is, you may recall there was a guy who attacked the governor of Pennsylvania when he and his family were at home celebrating holidays, that there was a guy who attempted to commit arson on their home while they were in it, and that guy was caught and was just sentenced a few days ago to between 25 and 50 years in prison. So it looks like there are times that the justice system can actually pull through, that a good decision is made and a justifiable one is made, and that guy we'll see what happens when he gets out in 25 years.
Yeah, we can still prosecute some people apparently, but it's the ones we can't that trouble me.
Yeah, excellent point. We'll have to see. Yeah, exactly. We'll have to see exactly how far that ability goes, and we will find out, because they will test it every day until it happens. And that kind of brings us around to our next segment. Actually, we have a new segment that is called Fascism Creeps. And this will be a segment where we talk about what's happening with fascism in America, because, as we all know, we're already beyond the opening stages of it happening, and we're well into seeing how that plays out in our streets, in streets of American cities. Apparently, there's a video of Kristi Noem blaming the Democrats for Trump's shutdown to help with his spin efforts to try to blame it on somebody else. And there are apparently multiple airports that have refused to play the video as part of their daily presentations of material. So this is actually a good news story in Fascism Creeps, because the creep is almost pushed back slightly by not supporting the video lies being spread. Do you know anything more about that, or is there anything else you wanted to say about the Kristi Noem thing?
Just to second what you said, that it's some welcome good news. We're seeing a little bit of solidarity from some quarter in this country, and being forced to play propaganda at the airport. Whew, brother, that would just sounds like a chilling thing to actually live through. If I was walking through the airport and Kristi Noem was just glaring down at me, talking about, how Democrats are terrible and I better watch my step. And oh my God, that's a Tom Cruise movie. That's done. That's not okay. That's some, anyway. So no, that freaks me out. And I'm glad that not just one or two or a handful of airports, but basically all of them in due time told her to go fly a kite on that point. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Because
some good
I've
news for
seen
you.
I've seen so many institutions that I thought would hold against all the stuff that's going on. And so for one to actually hold and not crumble and give way is encouraging, and I needed that. And there's other good news this week. Uh, the the press the press expressed some solidarity against the Pentagon, and that's another heartwarming story, because the press hasn't always been exemplary in all of this. They occasionally have taken the low road, more than occasionally. One might say frequently. And that's been a real bummer, man, because I'm a fan of journalism, and I believe in what it can do, and for it to capitulate so often, it was nice to see it. Some journalists, and I guess I should explain, the Pentagon wanted. We already talked about this, didn't we?
We did talk a little bit about it, but it
Yeah.
certainly belongs in this segment of the creep of fascism. So please.
Well, yeah, I'm just getting the let out about how heartened I am that journalists. I wish they had hung together with the Gulf of America business came along, and the Associated Press said, "No, we're not going to do that. That's dumb, and that's all yours. We are actually journalists, and we're going to call things by their proper names. You fantasizing weirdos." And so they got excommunicated from the White House. And I don't know that any other newspaper or outlet, blog, uh, town crier has stepped up in solidarity to do the exact same thing. What they should do is do the exact same thing and all get kicked out until there's no journalist left in the room, and he can tell it to the penny saver. But none of that happened. And so for them to hang together here in this way, uh, I don't know I don't know what I should attribute the newfound courage, but I hope it stays found.
It's a good example, and let's hope that they pick up a lesson from it and actually follow through on other issues. So you're absolutely right. I agree with you. Another issue that has come up, and on a story that we also mentioned previously, we talked about the Texans invading Illinois, and oddly enough, after Pete Hegseth's warrior culture thing, storytelling time, whatever it was,
World War
in
Sped
front of
Talk.
generals. Yeah, exactly. One of the big points he made was, and also there'll be no more toleration of fat troops and fat generals. We don't want no fatties.
No
And
admirals, none of it.
yeah, nor admirals. And so, interestingly enough, as the Texas National Guard guys were rolling out of one of their trucks, it was spotted that half of them were well overweight, very heavy set gentlemen. And so apparently, um, that group at least were called back. They were pushed back to go. They were returned to Texas for proper
Calisthenics,
or steer. With the steers, they
barbecue. You mean steers?
random
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
random and stay and rope them. So maybe they went back for that. I don't know exactly, but they were called back because they were just not not meeting the standard that has just been set. So
Yeah.
we'll see what comes out of that.
I
A
guess
little
that
bit.
I guess that standard wasn't immediate and retroactive because those guys are still there. I guess that's a rollout that takes time. I guess.
Too true. Too
I mean,
true.
if they wanted to get rid of every overweight person, I'm sure they could go. And the military is very efficient. So I'm just wondering how and when they're gonna roll that out because old whiskey breath Hegseth sure seems like a kick-ass take charge kind of guy. So
Well, yeah,
when
yeah.
I heard him
We'll see.
talk the talk. Let's hear him walk the walk.
Right, right. Um, so apparent. Well, I don't know about these 2 or 3 guys, but or 8 or 10 guys, or however many it was. Um, but we'll see what actually comes of it. And it was all based on this video of them exiting their vehicles.
Sure.
There was a big troop moving
And there were some husky boys. No
truck,
no
and
shade. I love good
very
barbecue too.
exactly. So we'll maybe there'll be more on that story. We'll be able to get behind what actually happens, or whatever happens to them. There is a bit more of a bit more serious story about, and which certainly fits the segment,
Yeah.
which is there were some young Republicans using texting to communicate, an internal WhatsApp or internal Messenger, whatever it was, and apparently a number of them were released publicly, and it was very disturbing. The
Yeah.
mentions of using rape as a way to silence people, and repeated calls by the leader of the Young Republicans, or the guy who was running for the leadership of the Young Republicans, of calling for gas chambers, trying to find the true believers, as he was calling them, by also having gas chambers to take care of those who were not up to his standard. And it's this whole front the Republicans put together of how we have to be thoughtful, and we have to be kind-hearted, and we need to keep track of the words we use and how we use them, because it's so influential when you say things. I didn't hear a lot of them reply to this story. I don't know where they went. I guess the rape in the gas chambers were a little, I don't know, maybe a little too much. But they certainly, all those who were calling for this newfound respect for opponents, didn't quite seem to either hear about this story or have anything to say about it. So that is something that we'll have to see what happens with it.
Oh my God.
Some
Yeah.
other,
There's not a lot of glory to go around here. Nobody wants to run to the microphone to get some of this on them because it stains and it stinks. It's like pig shit. These people are awful. This is evil, terrible shit you should never say in the dark to yourself. And you're even, say what you have to in your head. But, these gas chambers, I love Hitler, uh, terrible things about black people. And these are the people at the top, the apex of, this part of the Republican Party. This is how they conduct themselves. Uh, I try to keep it pretty humble, and I don't look down my nose at people or judge people, but this is some awful shit. This is
Yeah, I mean,
terrible. And none of these cowards will step up to the microphone and go, I don't know what's going on with those folks. And that's unacceptable, reprehensible. And I won't, I got no business with it. They should F off to the end of the earth. They should get
well,
out of the party, and there should be consequences. None of that. None of that. That's what somebody with any morals or self-respect would do, and none of them are doing it. And this is why the Republicans have no credibility. You can't believe anything they say anytime they say it. This is where they burn it. This is how they burn it. And it's just one among 1,000 other issues where they've, as we've discussed, the hypocrisy is just has its own integrity. It's been around so long. It's terrible.
Right. And this is not only how they don't stand up for the things that they demand of others, but it is also how that group of Republicans get ahead. I mean, this was the guy who was running for the top spot nationally, and this was what he was saying to get there, and this is what was helping him get there. This what he didn't say that and have a response even within the group saying, "Well, that's not right. Don't do that. Don't say that." Instead, they were like, "Yeah, that's why we're going to vote for the guy." I mean, that's Republican hardcore. So that's what we need to say, and that's not going to lead to anything. It's not going to lead to anything good.
You know who really needs to apologize, Matt, for all of this? Hillary Clinton. She called these people a basket of deplorables. What she meant, the basket was just not a big enough term, I think. Deplorables, I think she may have been onto something. Just terrible. They'll blame it on Biden somehow before they're done. You watch.
Exactly. It was the auto pen. Sure. Let's move on to the next story, and that is back to the issues. We are talking about Gaza, some of the results from the first step of the whatever it is, the Trump ceasefire that has started. And indeed it has. That's not debatable, but it's already hit another snag. And that is that part of the agreement was that all of the hostages that Hamas was holding would be returned to the Israelis. In turn, the Israelis would withdraw and start allowing aid to go into Gaza. And by the second day, not all of the hostages were returned. The catch is that of the 50 or so hostages that Hamas still held, 20 were alive, and those were the ones who were returned. So it was good for media to see people, released and free and able to rejoin their families. And then I forget exactly how many Palestinians, I think it was 1,200 or 1,700 Palestinian prisoners were released. So you saw pictures of them returning on the bus and being released and being brought out. But the catch was the corpse hostages were not released by Hamas. And eventually, I believe at this point, I believe 4 of the 28 corpses that were not released have been. But the Israelis are saying, well, the agreement was all of the hostages, and then we have the aid in. So they're saying we're going to slow down the aid. We're not going to let as much through. We'll let half in, but the other half will be held back because you guys kept the corpse hostages. So as unforeseen as it could possibly be that the Middle East would have conflict, it seems that the ceasefire has started to generate more of a conflict than a solution. And what was it? Everlasting peace that was the deal was supposed to bring about. So part of the issue is also that during the period of the Gaza, the attacks on Gaza by Israel, there were a number of Arab states that were secretly strengthening military ties with Israel. So there's Bahrain and Jordan and Egypt and Qatar and Saudi Arabia to some degree that were actually strengthening their ties over actually a longer period, not just during the time of the Gaza invasion, but also basically from 2022 to 2025. So it included all of that time. But they were thinking of the larger picture of being a counterbalance to Iran. Egypt and Saudi Arabia have a long history of being the three power bases in the Arab world for a long time were Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Iran, and they kind of work against each other to try to show who's got the most, who's on top. So that sort of is still exists. I'm sure it always will exist. I don't know that there's ever going to be that real magical eternal peace thing, but part of Trump's ceasefire is all about how these other Arab nations are going to come in and help with being, I guess, some sort of a police force. So it's not a UN force that's going to move into Gaza. It's going to be a Arab-based force that will participate in somehow monitoring and trying to provide a safety and to show his political capital that had been gained through this historic ceasefire between Israel and Palestinians. Trump spent all of that to fly home quickly so that he could provide a posthumous Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk, which is really following up strong. I think that was really what we needed to see after starting a fragile process of a ceasefire between Israelis and Palestinians. In the meantime, Hamas has reasserted itself in Gaza. It's killed about 50 Palestinians who they felt were collaborators with Israel. I don't know that and they continue to hold those 20 or so corpse hostages. I don't know if Trump can go in there himself to figure that out. I haven't heard a lot about that, the collaborators being killed, but I mean we'll see we'll see what stories develop over the next week, and we'll see if this is something that can make it to step 2 out of 20.
Right. Yeah, I mean, seems like as you described, the deal's already turning messy. The ceasefire is a little wobbly. I mean, what do you expect? I don't know from a Trump deal. He's the guy that, as I've heard it said, the negotiation starts after you sign the contract. And I feel like the deal was cheapened. People are ready to congratulate the current president. They basically held off solving this during the Biden administration so they could solve it during the Trump administration. And in the meantime, how many lives have been destroyed? And, I'm not really too excited about Trump's big win here. It could have been much sooner at a much lower cost. But that's the art of the deal. And yeah, it's pretty awful.
Too true. Let's move on to our next issue, actually, and that would be something that is some actual good news in
Yes.
this case, and that would be how we as Americans can show our concern for having a democracy, continuing a democracy, and not having a monarchy in the form of Trump the First. And that would be this coming Saturday. There are rallies that are occurring across the country. There's actually, if you look at a map of how many have been scheduled, there's parts of the country where there's no way to actually see the state that's under the number of uh, um, buttons or number of markers showing where rallies will be. Um, and actually, I was thinking it'd be, I took some screenshots of where those markers are. And what I want to do is after 2026, I want to compare it to the map after the next election and see what areas wound up actually voting Democratic and which ones voted for continuing the Trump Republican legacy. And we'll see what if there how people decide to follow through. But the next step in all of that is to attend the rallies on Saturday, big, small, whatever size they are, that they are being held, and the point is getting out and joining them. And so, what are your thoughts on the No Kings rally?
Well, I think really listen. I was at the last big rally we did. How long ago was that? Months ago,
It was
right?
June. Yeah, I think
Too
it was.
long
Yeah.
ago, and it was really great to see the show of force and interest. And my only feeling is that there's not nearly enough of it, and I don't really know how to do this. Much like a lot of other Americans don't know how to do it. How to protest effectively and how to really shake up the government at this level that we need to. And I think we've been too lax. I think our friends in Europe know how to do it. You ask a Frenchman, they'll tell you how to do it. They know how to get out in the street. They know how to get out in the way. They know how to slow the gears of society down and stomp their feet and get attention and get results and quickly. And one way they do it is they get out in the damn streets more than once every quarter, more than once every third full moon, you know. And when you say it like that, I mean, it seems a little more obvious, but nobody's and then that leads back to my consternation about the leadership, the political leadership in this country, that nobody's out there banging a drum and orchestrating this thing, organizing, encouraging, leading. For Pete's sake, it's there to be done. I'm not smart enough to do it, or I might do it. I don't have what it takes. But there are people who do. There are people who understand these things. If it was their career on the line, I think it would be a different story, I guess. I mean, then there's a few who, Gavin Newsom is not a perfect person, as I've said on this broadcast before, but he's doing one of the things that needs done. Even at that, his effort is not nearly enough. It is a drop in the bucket, and we need a torrent. Um, and so I just feel like these rallies are good, but we should have them every weekend or at least every month. And we should have a point to them. We should ensconce ourselves at a particular government office or something where business gets done that we don't really want to get done, or at an ICE outpost or something. Um, Gum up the works if necessary. The French will, if farmers, if you tick off a French farmer, he will dump 17,000 pounds of fertilizer on the steps of your capital. You will have to helicopter in to get to work. And they do that now and then, or they dump loads of fish, or they run trucks in a circuit around an area and block traffic and gum things up. People run through the streets in such numbers you can't get anything done. Anyway, uh,
Well, it
so
would be. Yeah, I mean, it would. You're absolutely right. We definitely need to have um, a real show of force of what the people can do, and not necessarily any act of violence, but
No, for
protest,
sure. For
genuine
sure.
protest. Like
Protest.
you're saying,
Don't want anybody to
yeah,
get hurt.
dump the manure on the steps or block off, a particular area.
Yeah.
So,
The
yeah,
frequency at which we're doing it now is easy to ignore. We need to make it harder to ignore, and that's at a minimum. There's more we can do, but that's at a minimum, and it's just about going out for a 2-hour picnic every weekend and saying hi to your closest, political relatives and friends. Anyway, it's there to be done. I just wish we saw more of it.
fair enough. Fair enough. And are you sure you don't want to run for something? Isn't there something you could? You sell yourself short by saying you wouldn't be the one to do it, but are you really selling yourself, or should you sell yourself short on that, or
Well,
is
I
there
don't
something
know.
that you can?
I've seen politics in my little town here, and it doesn't interest me. It can be pretty. I can't think of the right word, but it can be a little silly, and I don't have I don't think I have the patience and constitution for it, and I may not even be smart enough. Because
Oh, come on.
hey, civics is not always an easy bag, and there's always a lot to learn.
There is, and at different levels, it's different information. So you gotta know what it is that's the which bailiwick you're looking in. But that is, that's you can learn that stuff. You
Yeah.
can figure
Well,
it out. There are people there who will keep you sort of focused on the right areas where you can do stuff.
but your
And
message is well taken. I agree that everybody should consider being a part of be a part of their community, running for something. It's not so highfalutin that people can't do it, and I should give it better consideration.
I agree. I'm ready to make a sign for you, or
Okay.
go up on a street corner to with a sign.
I can use all the help I can get, Matt.
Anytime, anytime. Let's also, well, let's another tradition of our show has been that near the end we take a look at what we call the Epstein count up, which is we want to keep track and let people know that the unredacted version of the Epstein list has not been released again this week. And we are looking at, it's actually
Is that the
let's
wrong one?
switch to the one that says 3774, if we can.
Momentarily.
Surely. And because that's where we are. The unredacted version of the Epstein list has not been released for 3,774 days and counting up, because we're going to have to count up. We're not going to get there anytime soon, so we might as well at least keep track of it.
That's right. There's nothing they'd rather do than they'd stall the entire government. There's nothing they'd rather do than avoid releasing these whatever they've got locked up. And I was listening to, if I may continue to interject so rudely, I was listening to a podcast say something that should have been apparent, is that when the Trump birthday card to Epstein was released, it was theorized, and it makes perfect sense to me. It was theorized on this podcast that it's Ghislaine Maxwell sending up a flare saying, I need some attention over here. And within a week, she was moved to this cushy place in Texas. Who knows what the next flare is going to bring? And and if that's the case, she only has pull until Congress releases everything. And then it'd be throwing, a match on an inferno. At that point, she would have no more leverage. So I thought it was an interesting thought.
That's an excellent thought. Yeah, that's not even something I thought about. But you're absolutely right about that. That's true. It takes the legs right out from under it.
Yeah.
For her, maybe she can stay in the minimum security country club prison that Trump put her in to make her happier?
Maybe. The podcast I've been listening to is by oh heck, it's was on the tip of my tongue. Now I've lost it. I want to say the Daily Beast. No, that's not it. Anyway, that author Wolf, who wrote so many books, uh, uh, he talks to a lot of people, and I've heard it said that institution they've got Ghislaine Maxwell in um, has been basically turned upside down for having her there because everything's different. It's really impacted the way the place is run. So anyway, that's something I heard. Wanted to interject it there.
Good for it's been made better for the less security, or it's been made worse because they're trying to add.
As far as I understand, it's catering to Maxwell's demands and desires. It's been made, the way has been smoothed for her. That's as I recall.
Yeah, isn't that how we got here?
Right, right. Again, it's just a little more corruption on icing on the corruption cake.
Too true. Very good. Well, now and that's been happening all because that unredacted version has not been released still. And in fact, actually, there are some Democrats who are saying there was a congressional special election out in Arizona where Raul Grijalva's seat, he's died and his seat was up for special election, and his daughter Alida Grijalva won the special election, but she hasn't been seated in Congress yet. Even though she won, it will take a ceremony that the House of Representatives holds, and Mike Johnson, Speaker, has delayed it. His recent, his excuse now is those darn Democrats with their shutdown. It doesn't let me do a job.
Right.
Although they have the leadership in the House and the Senate and the presidency and the Supreme Court, he can't just do things because of everybody else. But there is some speculation that if once she is seated, that there will be 218 votes to release the unredacted version, or more of the. They have already released a redacted version. There's talk about whether it's more or unredacted, whatever it is. More can be released if there are 218 votes, and there are enough Republicans who are willing to join Democrats to do that.
Right.
But she's needed there to be part of that 218 votes, and maybe that's the real motivation between his or behind Johnson's inability to swear her in to the seat that she justifiably won and deserves to be seated in and to represent those folks in that part of Arizona.
Yeah, I feel like it serves two purposes. It keeps the Epstein files sealed, having the government shut down, and it keeps the government shut down. And he's apparently, happy to do that. So I think the only thing that troubles my mind about it is how long can you keep that trick going? You can't just not swear in a member of Congress who has been voted in. You can't do that forever, can you? I mean, what do they think they're going to do? Wait for another Republican to die so they have one less vote? I mean, at this point, they're hoping for an asteroid to hit the planet or something. You have to let these people do their job, I guess. Maybe the Supreme Court will see it their way. They've been very permissive.
Well, the Republicans have put a lot of work into the government not working. So
Right.
don't give them any ideas. With that said, we'd like to thank all of you for joining us for PolitiPod Live for political talk. And if you'd consider joining someone to have a political laugh, you can join Tom and myself and a half dozen other of our friends for the monthly political comedy podcast called PolitiPod. And that can be found at soundcloud.com/PolitiPod. And thank you for joining us for PolitiPod Live and hearing out what we have to say. I'm Matt Nisanoff.
I'm Tom Bickle.
Good night.
Good night, folks. Thank you for tuning in.